starting my own paper. Show you how it works.
Addition to the Tribune team, Lee Strobel.
It is my distinct pleasure to honor one of our own for his nationally acclaimed Ford Pinto investigative series. Lee, your work has given justice to families across the country and peeled back a corporate cover-up. So I present you with the Len H. Small Memorial Award for Community Service Journalism. And congratulations on your promotion to Legal Affairs Editor.
Thank you, Mr. Cook, for the award, for the promotion. Mostly for the promotion.
Welcome.
The only way to truth is through facts. Facts are our greatest weapon against superstition, against ignorance, and against tyranny. Now, I learned those words from my mentor, Mr. Ray Nelson.
Thank
Everybody,
you.
Let's let him hear it, huh? If anyone needs it, bring it on. Now, you all know Ray. He's a legend in the business. But to me, Ray, you've been more like a father, so thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, son.
Most importantly, I owe this honor to my beautiful and very patient and very pregnant wife, and to my favorite little lady, Allison. I love you both more than you'll ever know. Yes, sweetie. Now can we eat, Daddy? I'll drink to that. Thank you.
I got caught.
Ooh, well then. Of course, she finds the biggest word on here, right?
Asparagus? Wow, that is a big word.
Not for a girl who's lost a tooth.
Oh, okay.
Big
I'm
girl.
so impressed.
Big girl who didn't eat her dinner.
Full.
You're full.
Is that right?
Are you going to tell me you're hungry when we get home?
All right, I'm going to give you dessert if you eat one more noodle.
That was easy.
See, you just have to bribe them a little bit. Do it up. We done? Show me done.
There's still spaghetti in there. Swallow that.
Take this, go.
Good work. You know, I'm feeling pretty good about myself.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
How's that?
I am married to a published author.
It's very impressive.
Mm-hmm. Isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
I'm proud of you.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. I love you.
I love you.
You and only you.
Mm-hmm.
Sweetie?
Allie, what is it, baby? Are you choking?
I think she's choking.
Allie, come on, call.
Hey, sweetie, just breathe on me, okay? Allie?
Everybody, please, just give her some space.
Lee. Allie, I'm right here.
Come on, honey, come on.
Hey, baby, it's gonna be
Somebody help us, please! Call an ambulance!
It's okay, baby. I'm
Look
right
at Dad, you okay? Okay, breathe for me. You're gonna be all right. Baby, I'm right here. I don't know what to do. I love you, sweetheart. Just
Can't breathe.
Quick, I'm a nurse.
Allie,
Quick.
Okay, just stay calm. Come on, Allie, call for me. Cough, honey. Can you do that?
Can't breathe, baby. Sweetie.
Cough, baby. She's coughing. She's fine now. She's fine.
Okay, just breathe.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
I don't know how to thank you.
You don't have to thank me. I'm a nurse at Mercy Hospital. She's going to be fine now.
We are so lucky.
Well, it's not luck. It's Jesus. My husband and I were on our way to another restaurant tonight. Something told me I need to be here.
Wow, thank you. Leslie,
Alfie Davis.
I'm not gonna forget you.
God bless you.
Just keeping it interesting, huh?
I can still have candy though, right?
We'll have to see about that. You get some sleep now. All right, Missy?
Mom, who's Jesus?
Jesus was a man, a great man. And, you know, we've talked about God, right?
You know how Mommy and Daddy read you stories at night? You know, the fairy tales that you like. So believing in God is kind of like that. It's really nice stories. But we are atheists. Atheists don't believe in God.
Well, what do they believe?
They believe in what's real, in what we can see, what we can touch.
Like what?
Oh, like this?
Well, I guess I'm an atheist too.
Get some sleep, booger, okay? There's Barry. There you go. Fudge Pop. All right, sleep good. I love you.
Daddy,
Yes, love.
good night.
Good night, baby.
I thought we said we weren't gonna force anything on her.
She asked.
Right, so as long as it's what we believe.
Oh, are we really gonna go around on this again, Les?
I guess so.
Babe, I am grateful for what that woman did tonight. Obviously. But it's a coincidence. It didn't mean anything.
How can you say that? She was going to another restaurant and something made her come to ours. You think that means nothing?
I know it means nothing.
Can I tell you what it means? It means that we would have lost Allison. If that woman hadn't been there, we would have lost her. Our whole world would have changed forever.
Yes, but it didn't. Okay? We're all okay. Everyone's okay.
Room 241, bed 2, going home today. Want to prep for discharge, please? Leslie?
Yes, hi. Alfie. Yes. Muffins. I have not been able to stop thinking about it. What if you hadn't been there?
There is no what if with God.
You're so sure. How can you be so sure?
Do you really want an answer to that?
Please.
Oh, soul, are you weary and troubled? No light in the darkness you see. There's light for a look at.
Sometimes God speaks to us in unexpected and surprising ways. So tonight, for example, if you find yourself here for the first time, I just want to encourage you to open your heart and take a chance. Maybe God's trying to get your attention right now. And trust me, if you listen expectantly for His whispers, you'll hear them. You will. Maybe you're afraid. Maybe you have doubts. Maybe you've felt something missing in your life and you don't know quite what it is. That's fine. God is patient. And when you're ready, I promise you, He'll be right there waiting for you with open arms.
I feel like I can get through to her before she gets too deep. But I remember you went through something like this with your daughter, with Lori, right?
Yes, I did. It's a conundrum. You see, in times of crisis, we humans tend to seek meaning, don't we? You've read Bertrand Russell, of course.
Yeah, of course. I mean, not since college, but no, there's no way that Leslie would read that right now.
Yeah, my daughter wouldn't either. But I kept picking away at the delusion until she finally came around. But I got to tell you, Lee, it doesn't come without a price.
How do you mean?
Whatever this is for Leslie, maybe it's not such a terrible thing. I mean, if it brings her comfort, are you sure it's not something you can live with?
Yes, I'm sure. I'm not going to lose my wife and my kids to something that I can't even reason with. No. I can't even pretend to go along with this, right? I mean, you of all people should understand that.
I do. And I know that Leslie is a reasonable woman, so I think that reason is probably the best approach. And as always, it comes down to facts and truth. Now, you present her with the facts, and I'm sure she will find her way back to the truth. Meanwhile, my collection is at your disposal. Take your time.
Appreciate it, Ray.
Oh, Lee, one more thing. I'll be praying for you.
Well, that's not even funny. Kenny, let me ask you something. You're into all this God nonsense.
Wow, you sure know how to term a source.
A bunch of Bible thumpers got to Leslie. I'm afraid she joined your cult. So if somebody wanted to do an investigation into Christianity.
Oh, like a hit piece.
Well, you know, if that's where the evidence leads.
Seems to me you got yourself a catch-22.
What's that?
Well, let's say you debunk Christianity. How's Leslie going to live with the man who destroyed the very thing that now gives her life meaning?
No, well, because I should be the thing.
And then what if Leslie's right? And you prove your theory of science and reason wrong. How are you going to live with yourself?
I'm willing to take that chance.
Okay. You're a journalist. Check it out.
Where would you start?
Unless you want to do 2 years of seminary, I'd say go straight for the jugular. The entire Christian faith hinges on the resurrection of Jesus. If it didn't happen, it's a house of cards. He's reduced to a misunderstood rabbi at best. At worst, he's a lunatic who was martyred.
For a guy who thinks I'm trying to assassinate Christianity, you sure you want to hand me that gun?
I'm pretty sure you're not going to be able to pull the trigger.
All right, who's the big authority on the resurrection? Dr. Gary Habermas. He debated Antony Flew. That guy's one of my heroes.
He's in Wisconsin, by the way. Big debate this weekend.
Wisconsin?
Mm-hmm.
Who'll go to Wisconsin?
You like to ask me, Mr. Strobel?
Yeah, well, so I read your book, and there's something that stuck out to me. How can anyone talk about historical evidence for the resurrection when the resurrection by nature is a miracle, right? We all know miracles can't be proven scientifically.
Correct, but we don't have to prove a miracle to prove a resurrection.
Okay, love to hear you explain that one.
Yeah, you just have to show that Jesus died and he was seen afterwards.
Right, but the very people who claim that they saw him are religious zealots. So in my line of work, we call those biased sources.
Well, I'm not interested in bias either, Mr. Strobel. You see, I care about the facts for professional and personal reasons.
Right, so where are the facts, Dr. Habermas? The resurrection narrative is more legend than it is history.
Really? Not according to historical records. Did you know that we have a report of the resurrection with specific eyewitnesses that dates all the way back to within months of the resurrection itself? That source also adds that 500 separate people saw Jesus at the same time. We're not talking decades or centuries after the cross, Mr. Strobel. It's months. Hey, you a coffee drinker? There are at least 9 ancient sources, both inside and outside the Bible, confirming that disciples and others encountered Jesus after the crucifixion.
But they were already followers of Jesus.
Well, not all of them. Think of Saul of Tarsus. He originally was a persecutor of Christians. He hunted them down and killed them. Yet he died the Apostle Paul, proclaiming that Jesus was the Son of God.
But let's not kid ourselves here. People die for lies all the time.
900 people died drinking poison Kool-Aid at Jonestown.
True, and there are other examples like that throughout history, but here's the difference. People don't willingly drink poison for something that they know is a lie.
Fair point.
If the early church martyrs knew that the resurrection was a hoax, then why would they willingly die for it? Would you?
I want to go back to something that you said earlier. You said that that this was personal to you. Why is that?
I lost my wife, Debbie, to cancer.
I'm sorry about that.
It was the worst thing that will ever happen to me. But in my time of loss, it made me confront my beliefs. And that is where I found my true comfort. Because I know that I'm going to see my wife again someday.
And forgive me, but as a man who claims to value hard evidence, don't you find that sort of hopeful thinking weakens your argument?
Not one bit. The fact that I benefit from gravity isn't proof that it's real. Just as my dislike for mosquitoes isn't an argument against their existence. You see, what I want and what I don't want has no impact on truth. That being said, if Christ's resurrection means that I get to be with Debbie again, I have no problem being happy about that. Sometimes truth reminds us of what's really important.
Marquez, Lee Strobel, thank you for seeing me.
Of course.
I should tell you I'm a bit of a history buff myself, so yeah, I'm particularly intrigued with your archaeological work.
Former life.
Former life, yes. I'm a bit surprised, given your stellar reputation, that you just gave all that up for this.
Would you like to be more specific?
Well, it just seems to me that for the better part of 2,000 years, Christianity has been creating these rituals and these rules. You know, they've erected these elaborate and often expensive cathedrals, and all of that to support a faith that I believe is ultimately built on sand.
And yet, it's all still standing.
Yes, because people keep telling each other the same stories over and over again. Just because I write something down and I bury it in the dirt, that doesn't make it true.
I think I'm beginning to see the crux of your visit.
Look, I understand that a number of people claim to have seen Jesus after his crucifixion, and some of them even wrote it down. But I guess my question is, how can we be sure of the reliability of those manuscripts?
Well, the same way we authenticate any historical document, by comparing and contrasting the copies that have been recovered. It's called textual criticism. The more copies we have, the better that we can cross-reference and figure out if what the original was saying is historically accurate. And the earlier they come from in history, the better. Take Homer's Iliad, for example.
Is this real?
That's as real as the Macedonian dirt that I dug it up from.
Well, the Greeks considered this their Bible for many centuries.
Yes, they did. That is one of 1,565 copies in existence today. Now, the Iliad was originally composed 800 years before Christ. Okay. This Greek copy is dated at the 3rd century A.D.
So, 800, so that's 1,100 years between this copy and the original, yes?
Correct. There is only one ancient collection of writings that has more authenticated copies than the Iliad. Can you guess what that is?
You're going to tell me the Bible.
The New Testament.
And how many copies is that?
To date, archaeologists have recovered 5,843 Greek New Testament manuscripts. That's 4 times as many as the Iliad.
Really?
The earliest fragment of the Gospel of John was found in ancient Egypt, and it dates to 2nd century A.D.
How close is that to the original?
Less than 30 years. I have one of the fragments in my collection. It's quite a treasure, isn't it?
Uh-huh.
After the New Testament, And the Iliad, the runners-up don't even come close. We only have 100 copies of Sophocles, 7 copies of Plato's Tetralogies, and only 5 copies of anything by Aristotle. In fact, if you laid the surviving copies of Aristotle, one on top of the other, they would make barely 4 feet. You do the same with surviving copies of the New Testament, the stack would be a mile high. Nothing else in history even comes close. How is that for reliable?
Well, Father, I certainly appreciate it. You've given me a lot of food for thought.
Entirely my pleasure.
Oh, wow. The Shroud of Turin, that is a fantastic reproduction.
The actual shroud is in the Cathedral of St. John the Baptist in Italy, under lock and key.
Of course.
And no one's ever proven if the shroud is the actual burial cloth of the Christ. But whenever someone looks in those eyes for the first time, the Galilean who hung on the cross 2 millennia ago suddenly becomes a real person.
But why would he do it? Why allow himself to be killed? If he really is the Son of God, why not use his power to defend himself?
The answer to that is what got me out of the dirt and into the church. It's really very simple. Love.
Love.
Legal Affairs Desk.
Lee Strobel?
Speaking.
Yeah, this is Bill Craig.
I'm sorry, who?
Bill Craig.
Dr. Craig, thank you for returning my call. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I'm sorry for the delay. I'm calling from Jerusalem. I have to give a lecture any minute. I didn't want to keep you waiting.
I'll cut right to the chase.
So I've been doing research into the purported resurrection of Jesus, and I want to run a theory by you. Maybe the reason
That the tomb was empty was because Jesus' body was never there in the first place.
because we know that the Romans used to throw the bodies of crucifixion subjects to the dogs, right?
Well, there's no evidence for that, but there are specific records that didn't happen to Jesus.
And what records are those?
Well, actually, the earliest recorded accounts tell us that Jesus was properly buried in a tomb. And the Romans did allow for burial of some crucifixion victims.
But then there's something that still doesn't add up
To me about all of these supposed eyewitnesses.
that claim to have found Jesus' empty tomb.
What, the fact that they were all women?
Yeah, because we know that, according to Jewish customs, women were deemed to be unreliable witnesses. Am I right?
Well, true. So why did all 4 gospel writers record that it was women who discovered the empty tomb?
I'm asking you that.
Well, if you were a first-century Jew making up this story out of thin air, then you would never say that women discovered the tomb. It would damage your case, not help it.
Okay, so maybe we're dealing with the world's most inept disciples.
Or maybe the disciples reported what actually happened and let the chips fall where they may.
Okay, all right, but you have to admit here that there is a gaping hole in all of this.
A gaping hole.
I mean, the fact that the Gospels are filled with contradictions about the empty tomb, okay? If I turned in a story that was this jumbled, I'd be out of a job. If we look through the Gospels, you start at Matthew, okay? Matthew puts Mary Magdalene and some other Mary at the tomb. You flip over to Mark, he adds Salome. You go to Luke, he adds Mary, mother of James, and then some lady named Joanna. What is that? You need a Sherpa guide to sort your way through this mess.
Sure, there are differences, but that doesn't trouble most historians.
Why? Why doesn't that trouble? It troubles me. It should trouble them.
Because the core of the story is the same in all 4. After Jesus is placed in the tomb, it's visited on Sunday morning by a small group of women, and they find the body is gone.
Now, you've studied law.
Yale law, yes.
And then you know that when policemen question several witnesses at a crime scene, they never expect the secondary details to be consistent as long as the core account is the same. In fact, if they're too similar, it's suspect.
That's true.
Well, that's exactly what we're talking about here.
The empty tomb is based on evidence, and isn't evidence your trade?
It is. Yes, but what if
The resurrection is one of the historical details that was recorded incorrectly.
How can we know? How can we ever know?
Lee, let me ask you something. Do you really want to know the truth, or is your mind already made up, regardless of the facts?
Oh, look, Doc.
I'm a journalist, okay? It's my job to challenge assumptions until they're proven otherwise. That's all I'm doing.
No, I get that. But when is enough evidence enough evidence?
Ray, I'm telling you, I've checked it out. I've interviewed a dozen historians, philosophers, archaeologists. There's all these accounts of actual eyewitnesses which corroborate each other. People with zero motivation to lie. In fact, they should have lied. Some of them ended up dying for their beliefs. I'm losing my mind, Ray. I wake up every morning and I think to myself, you know, maybe today's the day. Maybe today she'll come to her senses. And she doesn't. You know, it just gets worse. The thing of it is, she's different. She's actually different. Yeah, that's what scares the heck out of me. Just miss my wife.
I wish that I could be of more help to you, Lee. But just remember, Leslie knows full well that you don't approve of all this. But she is still your wife. And you love her very much. Just make sure she knows that, too.
Look, Les, I understand that all this feels good right now. I mean, I went to church. I heard the music. I get that you want this to be true. But what if it's not? Wouldn't you want to know that before you've dedicated your entire life to it?
Of course. But what if it is? What if it is true? Wouldn't you want to know that? There's a verse that says, faith is the evidence of things we can't actually see. You believe what you can see and touch and feel. And I feel this. I can see it. I know it.
You can't.
But I do. It's the same way I know I love you.
Yeah, but that's different, Les. I'm real. I'm a person. We have a relationship.
And I know we've been fighting, and it's been weird lately, but I love you more now than I ever have.
Based on what?
Honestly, since I accepted Jesus, my love for you it's only grown and it's only deepened. And if that's not proof of something, I don't know what is.
No, that's not proof
know.
of anything. Les, that's feelings. It's not proof.
And my feelings are a valid experience that
Les,
they're real to me.
I don't like this version of us. I don't like what you're becoming. And if I'm looking ahead and we're still having this conversation 5 years from now, we're having this conversation 2 years from now, I don't want to be there for that. Okay? I won't be.
Check on the kids.
Hey, just because they said they saw Jesus doesn't mean they actually did.
I'm sorry, was that for me?
Maybe the eyewitnesses of the resurrection, maybe they're delusional. You know what I mean? Maybe they only thought they saw Jesus. Or maybe it was like mind control or brainwashing. Rod!
You need to see a psychologist.
Oh, you think I got a screw loose?
Yeah, well, that's another story. But if you're talking about first century mass psychosis, you need to talk to a psychologist.
I'm already ahead of you. Rod! Hey, I need you to find me a good psychologist to interview. A psychologist, that's right. A guy with a lot of academic street cred, knows the human mind better than God does.
No pressure, kid.
Don't listen to him.
Dr. Roberta Waters, president of the American Association of Psychoanalysts, agnostic.
Ah, agnostic, finally.
And a leading authority on human behavior at Purdue University.
Indiana, great. Dr. Waters.
Ah, hello, Mrs. Strobel. As much as I would like to help a fellow skeptic, what you're proposing is completely impossible.
But how can you say that? I mean, if Charles Manson can turn his followers into murderous zombies, surely the followers of the Christ cult could be convinced of their own delusions.
Listen, hallucinations are like dreams. They happen in individual minds. They don't spread like the common cold.
Okay, so a hypnotist turns a stage full of insurance salesmen into clucking chickens. Then that's not really happening, or?
No, of course it is. The power of suggestion can be very profound. But it's one thing to be mesmerized into making animal noises. It's quite another for 500 people to have the same dream. To be honest, that would be an even bigger miracle than the resurrection itself.
And without an empty tomb, you and I, we're not even having this conversation. If Jesus recovered from his injuries, that solves that problem. All these people could have easily seen him, yes?
Yes, but I'm afraid that's not a brain issue. You need to speak to a medical doctor.
Of course. Dr. Waters, again, thank you for your time. You've been most gracious.
But before you go, may I ask you something?
Sure.
It's about your father. I'm just curious what your relationship with him is like.
Complicated.
Let me guess. Distant, cold, doesn't give much affirmation or express love?
Guilty on all charges. Why?
I imagine as a skeptic, you're familiar with history's great names in atheism. Hume, Nietzsche, Sartre, Freud.
Of course, yes, some of my greatest heroes.
Did you know that all of them had a father who either died when they were young, abandoned them, or was physically or emotionally abusive? In the world of therapy, it's called a father wound.
No, I was not aware of that. But with all due respect, Dr. Waters, I did not have a loving father. But that doesn't mean that I have a problem with those who do. What I have a problem with is some made-up loving father. If God was real, I could accept that he loves me. I just don't believe he is.
I don't disagree.
Well, unfortunately, my wife does. The problems that it's currently causing my marriage are very real. Again, thank you.
Leslie Strobel, today is very much like a wedding ceremony. By taking the step of baptism, you are publicly proclaiming that you are a follower of Jesus. Do you believe he is your Savior who died for your sins?
I do.
And is it your desire to make that belief public by being baptized?
Yes, it is.
Then it is my privilege to baptize you in the name of the Father, the Son,
Give Lee a new heart. Put a new spirit in him. Remove from him his heart of stone and give him a heart of flesh.
So forgive me for making you travel all the way out here, but when someone rings me up and says he wants to dispute the most significant event in human history, I feel it's important that we do it face to face. Don't you?
Yeah, that's fine. I appreciate your time. So, my line of attack is this. The reason the eyewitnesses were able to see Jesus after Golgotha is because he never died on the cross.
Because if he doesn't die, there's no resurrection, yes?
That's right. So whether or not Jesus himself or someone else took him off of the cross early, or if he fakes his own death, it doesn't matter. It completely discounts every aspect of the resurrection.
Right, the swoon theory.
Yeah, but he passed out. He didn't die.
I'm afraid there's a long line of skeptics in front of you with that hypothesis.
Including only 1 billion Muslims the world over who also don't believe that Jesus died on the cross because the Quran says so.
With all due respect to Islam, the Quran was written 6 centuries after Christ. I prefer my historical sources a bit closer to accurate.
I understand, but you can see that it's possible.
Mr. Strobel, I am a medical doctor and a scientist. I have seen a great many strange phenomena in my lifetime. But the swoon theory is rubbish.
Rubbish. Is that a medical opinion?
You know, it is, actually. Swoon theorists tend to skim over the fact that Jesus was flogged prior to his crucifixion. Do you know what happens in a Roman flogging?
Yeah, the person is lashed with a whip.
No, not lashed. Scourged and pummeled savagely. You see, the cowhide whip is braided with metal balls and bone fragments. The flesh on Jesus' back would have been shredded. The very muscles and sinews themselves laid open to exposure. The flogging itself would have left Jesus in critical condition from massive blood loss, which is why he collapsed under the weight of the cross that the Romans made him carry through town.
Okay, so is it possible that Jesus survives being spiked to the cross?
Oh, yes, you could survive it, but it's child's play compared to what comes next in a crucifixion. Slow, agonizing death by asphyxiation. Come with me. The stress on Jesus' chest muscles would have locked his lungs into the inhale position. Right? So in order to let the breath out, he would have had to shove himself up using his spiked wrists and feet, scraping his shredded back against the wood of the cross, and then sagged back down again in order to draw his next breath, which he would have had to have done over and over and over again until utter exhaustion just made it impossible. And then inevitably,
he dies, in theory, but let's remember, these soldiers, they're not doctors, okay? So maybe they took him off the cross and they thought he was dead, but in fact he wasn't.
No, of course they weren't medical doctors. They were professional killers. Right? And they were quite good at their jobs. They had to be. If a prisoner escaped alive, they themselves would be executed. Mr. Strobel, the crucifixion of Jesus is one of the best attested events in the ancient world. And, if you will, the final nail in the coffin, the swoon theory, is this. When the soldiers thrust their spear between Jesus' ribs, do you know what came out? Blood and water, which we now know is a description of pericardial effusion as a result of death by asphyxiation. This is not a condition anyone could fake. And so to answer your question, yes, it is my medical opinion that Jesus Christ died on that cross.
Excuse me, doctor.
A moment.
But I have a real problem with most of the experts that I've talked to here.
Which is?
Which is that most of them are not impartial, and if I'm going to take a guess, I would say that you are not either.
And you would be correct, sir. Though I have learned that most impartial travelers who undertake this journey rarely remain so. However, I can refer you to one of the most impartial sources that I know. Do you trust the Journal of the American Medical Association?
Of course, it is a stellar scientific journal, and I will admit that. on the physical death of Jesus. Clearly the weight of the medical and historical evidence indicates that Jesus was dead before the wound to his side was inflicted. Accordingly, interpretations based on the assumption that Jesus did not die on the cross appear to be at odds with modern medical knowledge. Doc, I gotta tell you, you're not telling me what I hope to hear today.
Do you know he had this in his wallet?
Yes. You know, your father, he was proud of everything you ever accomplished. Look, he didn't know how to say it very well, but he loved you, son. He really loved you.
I have read through every book you've given me. I've gone through every argument. I've followed every lead.
At some point, young man, you're going to have to plant your flag on a mountain of uncertainty where not every question is answered. The human mind will never get to the bottom of every mystery in the cosmos. Believing in God, not believing in God, either way, still takes a leap of faith.
So you're saying, even in our disbelief, that we still take a leap of faith?
More or less. Me, well, I've come to my own conclusion. You're going to have to do the same thing for yourself.
What are you doing here? I thought you were banished. Hey. What's the matter?
You people and your God, you just, you talk in circles. You offer just enough evidence, but never enough to be conclusive. Then you fill in all the gaps with, oh, well, yeah, you just got to have faith. It's a bunch of nonsense.
You're really irritating. You know that?
Don't start with me, Kenny.
You don't waste a lick of time bragging to all of us how great a reporter you are. So why can't you put up or shut up on this story?
What are you even talking about?
Here's where the chili meets the cheese, my friend. One of my heroes was C.S. Lewis, a man who began as a skeptic, much like yourself. At the end of his journey, you know what he said? He said, if Christianity is false, it's of zero importance. But if it's true, there's nothing more important in the entire universe. So you want your wife back? Well, hey, guess what? People in hell want ice water. Not everybody gets everything they want. Stop blaming me and the church and God and do your job. Stack up the evidence, follow the facts, and write the story, win or lose. Good night.
The only way to truth is through facts.
The entire Christian faith hinges on the resurrection of Jesus. If it didn't happen, it's a house of cards.
No, you just have to show that Jesus died and was seen after.
How can we be sure of the reliability of those manuscripts?
Archaeologists have recovered 5,843 Greek New Testament manuscripts. Nothing else in history even comes close.
Do you trust the Journal of the American Medical Association?
Yes, Jesus Christ died on that cross.
You're not telling me what I hope to hear today.
What if it is true? Wouldn't you want to know that?
The first recorded account tells us that he was buried in a tomb. The empty tomb is based on evidence. Isn't evidence your trade?
Faith is the evidence of things we can't actually see.
Any careful historian will see that the core account is consistent, even if a few of the secondary details are told from different perspectives.
500 separate people saw Jesus at the same time.
That would be an even bigger miracle than the resurrection itself.
The disciples reported what
People
actually
with
happened.
zero motivation to lie.
When is enough evidence enough evidence?
I felt something that is maybe more real than anything I've ever felt in my life.
This is not a condition anyone still takes a leap of faith.
But why would he do it?
It's really very simple. Love.
All right, God. You win.
Hey. Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm fine. How's he doing?
Good.
Come over here. I want to talk to you for a second.
Are you sure you're okay?
So I have not been completely honest with you over the last few months.
That's a really scary way to start a conversation.
Just hang with me here, okay? When you became a Christian, I freaked out. I mean, yeah, I was scared. And I
felt like that I needed to save you. And so I decided to set out to prove this was all a big con. And so that's what I've been doing all this time.
Your research?
Yeah, I mean, look at this. This is all that stuff. That's why I've been so distracted. That's why I went to California. I just had to prove this whole thing wrong. But I couldn't. The evidence for your faith, it's more overwhelming than I could have ever imagined. But it wasn't just the evidence, okay? It was you. You never stopped loving me. You never gave up on me. And I think because of that, God didn't either.
Oh. What? I mean, I don't think God gave up on you either, but what are you saying?
I can't even fathom that I'm going to say this words out loud. I believe.
Okay, let me show you something. Show you. But as many as received him, to them he gave the right to become children of God. Mm-hmm. To those who believe in his name.
And what does that mean?
That means believe plus receive equals become.
Okay. So then how do I receive? What's the protocol for that?
There's no wrong way or right way. Just you talk to God.
Mm-hmm.
You tell him your heart.
Mm-hmm. And we do that right now. I mean, shouldn't we go to church?
Right here, right now. This is church.
Okay. God, I have no idea what I'm doing. But I cannot ignore the evidence. And I don't know everything. I never will know everything. But I know enough. And I believe it. I'm sorry for what I've put my wife through, what I've put my family through. But I believe you're real. And I don't know what comes next. I don't know what it means. I just know that I want that. I want whatever's next. So let's do that.
Amen. Thank you.
I guess I'm crazy too.
teaching him today.
Don't blow it.
Watch this. I got a pitch for you. Oh, that didn't last long.
Piece of junk. You hear about Hicks? Released from the hospital, no longer a resident of Crook County Jail.
I did. That's great news.
Come on, this is a joke, right?
No, it's not. I want to do a first-person feature story, okay? An odyssey. One man's journey from skepticism to faith.
Forget it, Lee. I mean, good for you, I guess, but we can't publish something like this. We'd lose all credibility. So would you.
I really wish that you would reconsider.
Stick to what you know, Lee. Go on now. Get out of here.
Not until you've at least heard me out. Hey, you. How are you?
Hi. So?
Dubois said no.
He did? Oh. Sorry, hon.
What did you do? You're a big girl now. Oh, no, you need to stop that. That means you're growing up. You're not a little girl anymore.
Not that big of a deal.
I think it's a big deal.
Hey, how about a book?
A what?
Instead of an article, how about a book?
What do you think about that?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Definitely.
I've seen heaven's doors open to me, and I've shook to the bones, and I've seen your face as I lay on the floor. Now you've cried. Now you've soared like a beggar in my soul, like a beggar in the world, just to find you, Lord. 'Cause Lord, I believe, help me Baby,